Hello, and welcome to the third episode of the Magic Weaning podcast. My intention with these episodes is to bring awareness and clarity to the weaning of breastfeeding or pumping process, because this is what I'm here to do.
You've created a miracle called life, breastfeeding or pumping every day and night. And there's gonna be a gentle weaning way. It's time to listen to Magic Weaning. Welcome to Magic Weaning. You ready for Magic Weaning with Gabriela Ungurelu.
And this being said, today in this episode, I want to talk to you about I'll do anything. What do I mean by this? Well, it's the words that come out of every mother's mouth since we become mothers and for the rest of our lives. I will do anything for my child. And we get a current of information or a social trend that we see during our lifetime, and we start to put in the immense effort to surf that wave, regardless if we actually feel like it or not, because as a mother, you are built and programmed to do anything for your child. If you haven't heard of this concept of I'll do anything and you just felt the pressure of it as a mother, this is how I found out about it. I became a mom and it felt like I entered a marathon race that I had to win. Otherwise, I would have died and my child would be motherless for the rest of his life. This is the pressure that we feel when it comes to being a mother and having in the background this concept of I'll do anything. So, why are we talking about this in the weaning breastfeeding part? Is because what happens is that weaning breastfeeding is one of the first things that we do for our kids after changing diapers and putting them to sleep, and start to feed them solids when they're 6 months old. But the weaning breastfeeding is the second thing that we do after changing diapers. So we are so eager to do it good. We are so eager to make it into an art in our masterpiece, because breastfeeding is so good for the child, and it's also good for the mother, because when the child latches on, it creates endorphins for the mother's body. Endorphins are strategic chemical element that helps us with feeling good overall, with the state of feeling good. So it's a two-way beneficial route that we are going with the weaning breastfeeding. And I'll do anything is that I'll do anything to be able to provide my child with my breast milk, and I'll do that even though I don't feel comfortable with it. I will do that because I'm afraid I'm doing so many things wrong that at least this one thing I'm doing good, I'd better do it for as long as possible. And thinking like this is not bad. I'm not saying I'll do anything. It's something that a mother should not think of. I'm just emphasizing the fact that this concept of I'll do anything when you're a mother can fire back. Because the biggest trauma that we all have is not necessarily what our parents did or did not do to us, but it's the unhappiness, the lack of peace of mind that we've been raised in 24/7. The lack of self-happiness, the lack of self-validation, the lack of self-responsibility over our reality and feelings. And so we grew up with no idea on how to be happy. We grew up thinking that we have to depend and lean and manipulate people around us into doing the things that we need in order to be happy. We grew up thinking that happiness comes from outside of you because we saw our parents chasing outside of themselves, outside of our home, happiness. With chasing a job, with chasing a big salary, with trying so hard to be more than the people around them. So basically, that's the biggest trauma that we have as kids. Then happiness we grew up in. The lack of how to be happy model. And I will go into more detail in the second part. How is this related to the breastfeeding journey? And I would very much like you to stay tuned, and I will see you in just a few moments.
I was talking to one of my friends, and she had a boy, I think 3 months older than mine, and she was fine with breastfeeding him until he was really old. But for me, this process had to happen, and I was telling her, I'm very confused because there's no process out there. There's no books. Because I read about 3 books. I watched a lot of videos on YouTube, and none of the methods that I found really helped me. They were mostly giving me this anxiety, like this is not going to work out. Like I would feel so anxious about, the methods they would explain in those books that I was like, there's no way I could apply this to my son and I would be comfortable with them. So she recommended your group, and I started reading comments and experiences that other mothers would write there. And then I said, I have to really work with Gabriela one-on-one. Because I felt like I needed more support, and definitely I was intrigued by this method, by this process that was described in your group, and that's how I got in touch with you.
Thank you for coming back. We are here talking about the concept of I'll do anything. And I hope I already inspired you to consider and go deeper into this perspective. As I was mentioning in the previous episode, it's important to understand where you are positioned when it comes to weaning breastfeeding, okay? Why is it hard to look at this final countdown? And if you haven't listened to the previous episode, please do so. So I was saying that I'll do everything. It's a very tricky thing to do as a parent, because in doing that with all the good intentions, so that your child will be happy, because you chase all these things in order for your child to be happy, not in order for you to be happy. You don't consider yourself. You leave yourself at the end of your to-do list in case you got some day left at the end of the day, which never happens. You never have any rest of the day left by the end of the day when you're a parent. So it's important that the things you're looking for bring you happiness, Of course, we do things for our kids. Of course, we go to work and we try to have and live meaningful lives in order for them to be inspired by our example and in order for them to become the adult that we are, because they are becoming that regardless of the things that we tell ourselves or the things that we tell them. So when it comes to I'll do anything, I would very much like you to change the narrative here from I'll do anything for my child in order for my child to have a happy childhood, to have healthy boundaries and healthy examples of what adult life is like. Because when it comes to breastfeeding and you say, okay, I'll do anything, okay, I'll breastfeed or I'll pump for 5 years if that's what's necessary. But if you're not happy by the second year, if you're not happy by the end of the first year, going on for a few years more means that your life will be pretty much miserable and your child will grow up with a mother that feels miserable, with a mother that beats herself up so bad. And they will grow into adults that will beat themselves up so bad, that will force themselves into situations they are not comfortable with, but because they learned that to love and to express love is to kill yourself, is to beat yourself, is to not take yourself into consideration, is to give the best of you to somebody else. And even though that leaves you depleted, even though that leaves you drained, even though that leaves you unhappy and miserable. Because when breastfeeding or pumping is going on, of course the child gets the nourishment and also gets the information of your emotional state. Because every thought that we have generates in our body a certain chemical reaction. So our body is made of our thoughts, basically. And when you breastfeed your child, your body sends into the milk the nourishment substances that the kid needs to develop. And also, those are coded with the energy that you find yourself in. And when it comes to I'll do anything in breastfeeding, as I mentioned earlier, first and foremost, you basically breastfeed your child with your unhappiness. You teach your child that to love and to show love, you have to feel uncomfortable. You have to sacrifice. You have to postpone yourself, your life, your happiness for the person you declare love to or for. Okay? So you don't want your child to grow up with that pattern, right? So when it comes to I'll do anything, that's why I'm asking you to fill in the sentence with I'll do anything that makes me happy as a mother, as a human being. I'll do anything that I want my child to pick up as a model of the adult that they will become. I think I said so many times this episode. But I have to keep coming back to the idea of I'll do anything. So I'll do anything that makes me happy until the point where this is happiness for me. Because when you cross that point, again, you send a distorted pattern to the child. You sacrifice yourself with all the good intentions, but you actually teach your child to sacrifice themselves. You get the result, the exact opposite result you're going for. So put yourself first, because your child learns how to be a human being from you. And the breast milk is amazing. It's pure gold, liquid gold. But when you go overboard with I'll do anything concept, you might do more harm than good, both for your child and for yourself. Because happiness is something that we are all here to learn about. And whatever happiness meant to you before being a parent, after becoming a parent, it's a different grade of happiness that you have to go through, and you have to learn the lessons and learn how it's done and become professional at it. So when it comes to I'll do anything, please change your perspective and have into consideration that breastfeeding should last for as long, or pumping should last for as long as you are happy doing it. When it becomes a burden and a struggle and a sacrifice, my professional advice as a weaning breastfeeding coach, having worked with so many mothers, having been my own first client, is to stop, to learn for ways to stop, and ways to stop that have not a negative impact on yourself and on the child, like the magic weaning process. You can find more information on gabrielaungurello.com, and you can find there all the social media. You can find me on social media with my name, simply my name. And you can also join the Facebook group, the free Facebook group, where we meet every month live with a Q&A, where you can ask your questions, and you can also be live, and we can talk about your particular situation and what are the steps that are most beneficial for you and your child in the weaning breastfeeding process. Because I'll do anything, it's such a beautiful statement, but just like everything else in this world, if it's too much, it's not useful anymore. And you have to take that into consideration when it comes to not just breastfeeding, but breastfeeding is the first lesson that you receive in this perspective of being a parent and being a mother. Being willing to do everything is beautiful. But mind your everything. What is everything to you? And what's the price that you're paying for this everything you are so willing to do? Because you need discernment in how far you go with I'll do anything in relationship with your child. Because with all the good intentions that you do everything for your child will become the adult that you are. So if you want your child to be fearless, be fearless. If you want your child to be responsible, be responsible. If you want your child to be happy, be happy. If you want your child to not beat themselves up when they do something wrong, learn to stop beating yourself up when you don't do everything perfect. And in life, the only way to not be wrong is to not do anything. So as long as you do something, you will get things wrong. Learn to deal with that, so your child will learn to deal with it too. I will see you for my final talk in just a few moments.
Somehow I perceived this method being easy. It was gentle weaning, which obviously was what I was looking for, but it really intrigued me, and it really made me choose you because although I had time, I was done. I mean, I was not pressured. I had another whatever, but I just wanted to get this done and done. I was not happy anymore. My son was almost 2.5, so I felt like I've done my part. And then when I realized that you were talking about this process as being the mother's process and not the child's process, and everything that it implies, it has to do with the mother's fears and her emotions and whatnot. I said, you know what, this really made me feel like it was for me. Because all the other methods, they tell you how you have to take out one feeding at a time. Some would say start with nighttime, daytime, and to me it was just like this thing, like I cannot do this is too complicated for me. Like I would be anxious, and we all know that whatever we feel goes to our baby. So I said, how can I do something that I'm not comfortable with and expect my son to be happy about this? So definitely the fact that all the mothers that went through this process were saying, oh my God, like I'm okay, my child is, happy, no crying, no nothing. And I said, okay, this is for me. This is definitely for me. And the whole process, although I had no time frame, and you told me, the first thing that I remember you told me was your process, your time. So it's not like this could happen in a week, it could happen in 3 months, whatever you choose. It really depends on every individual.
Hello and welcome back, and thank you for staying with me until the end of the episode. I believe, not only think, that I gave you some really food for thought this episode. So let me know your ahas and share this with your friends. Tag me in your social media, send me messages, tell me what is clear, what is unclear, what is that you want to know more of, because I'm very happy when I'm receiving your messages and when you tag me and when you share my content, because this gives me the reasons to keep on going on one hand, and on the other hand, to tailor my content on your needs. So I'll see you next time for another episode of Magic Weaning. But before I say goodbye, I want you to think about, and maybe again, make a list of the things that you did everything for and it backfired for you. Make a list of all the things that you did everything for, you put all your energy, all your love in, and people were not happy at the end of the day with your everything. And this will help you see and have a perspective on the discernment you need when it comes to doing everything and anything for someone or for something. Because without this discernment, you can very easy go into overwhelm. You will very easy go into low self-esteem. You will very easy go into beating yourself up forever. And most of all, you can easy go into thinking you're not enough of a parent for your child, which is the saddest part of all. So in order to avoid this, make a list with these things, have a different perspective, come join me in my free group, come join me in the Magic Weaning program, and see you next time. I'm Gabby. I bow in front of you and in front of the time you spend here with me and the time you spend and invest to better yourself first and foremost as a human being. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to Magic Winning. Tell your friends about your magic winning. Review, tag, subscribe. We hope you had a very good time.